Long before humans walked the earth, our planet was ruled by reptiles. This was a time of giants and incredible creatures. Dinosaurs roamed the land, and the first ancestors of today's animals were just beginning their journey. Among them were the early forms of iguanas and snakes. They were part of a world that was wild, dangerous, and constantly changing. These ancient reptiles were pioneers, adapting to new environments and facing new challenges. The story of their survival is one of the oldest tales on our planet, a story written in stone and passed down through millions of years of evolution. It was in this primordial soup of life that the seeds of an epic showdown were planted. These early reptiles were not exactly like the ones we see today. They were the first rough drafts, nature's initial experiments. The first lizards were small, quick, and probably spent a lot of time hiding from bigger predators. The first snakes were also very different. Some scientists believe they started as burrowing lizards, losing their legs to move more easily through the soil and tight spaces. It was a time of great experimentation. Every new feature, every new behavior was a test. If it helped the animal survive and have babies, it would be passed on. If it didn't, that animal's story would come to an end. This is the very core of evolution. Imagine a world without flowers. A world with strange, alien-looking plants. The air would have been thick and humid, buzzing with giant insects. In this world, the first iguanas and the first snakes began to carve out their places. They were not yet enemies in the way we think of them now. They were simply two different groups of animals, each trying to find its own way to make a living. The early iguana ancestors were likely looking for plants to eat and safe places to bask in the sun. The early snake ancestors were looking for their own food, perhaps small mammals or other reptiles. Their paths were just beginning to cross. This ancient world set the stage for everything that was to come. The relationship between predator and prey is one of the most powerful forces in nature. It drives change. It makes animals stronger, faster, and cleverer. For the iguana and the snake, this was the very beginning of their long and dramatic history together. They were two different answers to the same question. How do you survive on a dangerous planet? One would become a master of defense and escape. The other would become a master of the hunt. Their destinies were becoming tangled together, setting up a rivalry that would last for millions of years and continue to this day. Iguanas are survivors. Their story is not one of aggression, but of clever defense and incredible escapes. From their earliest ancestors, the key to being an iguana has been to avoid being eaten. They didn't evolve huge, sharp teeth for fighting or powerful claws for attacking. Instead, they developed a toolkit designed for one thing: getting away. Their primary weapons are awareness and speed. An iguana is always watching, always listening. Its eyes are positioned on the sides of its head, giving it a wide field of view. It can spot the slightest movement, the faintest shadow of a predator, from a long way off. This early warning system is its first line of defense. Over millions of years, iguanas perfected these escape artist skills. They developed long, powerful legs, not for chasing down food, but for explosive bursts of speed. When a threat appears, an iguana can sprint away with incredible quickness, often running on its back legs in a way that looks almost comical. But it is deadly serious. They also have long tails, which are not just for balance. If a predator manages to grab an iguana by the tail, many species can detach it. The tail will keep wiggling on the ground, distracting the attacker and giving the iguana a precious few seconds to disappear into the undergrowth. A new tail will eventually grow back, a small price to pay for its life. Camouflage is another crucial tool in the iguana's survival kit. Their skin, often in shades of green, gray, or brown, is designed to blend in perfectly with their surroundings. A green iguana sitting among the leaves of a tree can be almost invisible. A desert iguana can look just like another rock in a sun-baked landscape. This ability to disappear in plain sight means that often the best way to survive a hunt is to make sure the hunt never even begins. the predator simply passes by, completely unaware that its next potential meal is sitting just a few feet away, frozen and silent. It's a nerve-wracking waiting game, and iguanas are masters of it. So, the iguana's evolutionary path was shaped by a life of being hunted. It is a plant eater, a herbivore, with no interest in fighting. Its entire body and all its instincts are geared towards a live and let live philosophy, as long as nothing is trying to eat it. They are experts at conserving energy, basking in the sun to warm their bodies, and then using that energy for lightning-fast escapes when needed. They are a testament to the fact that in the wild, survival isn't always about being the strongest or the most aggressive. Sometimes it's about being the smartest, the most aware, and the quickest to run away. While iguanas were perfecting the art of escape, snakes were walking a very different path. They were becoming the ultimate hunters. The story of the snake is one of specialization, of becoming perfectly adapted to finding, catching, and eating prey. They lost their legs, which might seem like a disadvantage, but it was actually a stroke of genius. Without legs, they could slide silently through the grass, squeeze into the tightest burrows, and climb trees with incredible skill. Their whole body became a single powerful muscle, allowing them to move in ways that no other animal could. The snake became a master of stealth. A snake's senses are finely tuned for the hunt. Many snakes don't have great eyesight for seeing detail, but they are incredibly sensitive to movement. More importantly, they have a sense that we can barely imagine. They smell with their tongues. By flicking its forked tongue in and out, a snake collects tiny chemical particles from the air and the ground. It then touches its tongue to a special organ in the roof of its mouth, called the Jacobson's organ. This gives the snake a three-dimensional smell map of its surroundings. It can tell what kind of animal has passed by, which direction it went, and how long ago. It's like having a superpower. Once a snake has tracked its prey, it has several ways to attack. Some snakes, like racers and garter snakes, are built for pure speed. They are not venomous. They simply grab their prey, like a baby iguana, with their mouths full of sharp backward-pointing teeth, and swallow it whole. The struggle is fast and brutal. Other snakes, like vipers and cobras, use venom. They strike with lightning speed, injecting a complex cocktail of toxins that can paralyze the prey or stop its heart. This allows the snake to hunt animals much larger than itself without getting injured in a struggle. It's an incredibly efficient and deadly way to hunt. The snake's body is a marvel of engineering for a life of hunting. Its jaws can unhinge, allowing it to swallow prey much wider than its own head. Its skin can stretch, and it has no breastbone, so its ribs can splay out to make room for a huge meal. Everything about the snake, from its silent, legless movement to its incredible sense of smell and its deadly method of attack, has been honed over millions of years. It is a creature designed with a single purpose in mind: to be the most effective predator it can possibly be. This relentless drive is what makes it the iguana's most ancient and feared enemy. Islands are like nature's laboratories. They are isolated places where evolution can take some weird and wonderful turns. Animals that arrive on a remote island are cut off from the rest of the world. They have to adapt to the unique food, climate, and predators found there, or they will die out. The Galápagos Islands, far off the coast of Ecuador, are perhaps the most famous example of this. It was here that Charles Darwin noticed how finches had different beaks on different islands, which led him to his theory of evolution. And it is here that the ancient rivalry between iguanas and snakes has become one of the most dramatic spectacles in the natural world. On the Galápagos, a unique type of iguana evolved, the marine iguana. This is the only lizard in the world that feeds in the sea. Millions of years ago, their land-dwelling ancestors must have arrived on these volcanic islands, perhaps washed out to sea on rafts of vegetation. On the barren, rocky shores, there wasn't much plant life to eat, so some iguanas started to do the unthinkable. They began to eat algae from the rocks at the edge of the water. Over countless generations, they became better and better at it. They evolved special glands to sneeze out the excess salt from the seawater, and they developed long claws to grip the slippery wave-battered rocks. Life for a marine iguana is tough. The waters of the Galapagos can be cold, and being a cold-blooded reptile, they lose body heat quickly when they are in the ocean. After every dive for food, they have to climb back onto the black volcanic rocks to bask in the sun and warm up their bodies. When they are cold, they are slow and vulnerable. They gather in huge groups, huddling together for warmth and safety. It's an incredible sight, seeing hundreds, sometimes thousands, of these prehistoric-looking creatures covering the coastline. They look like little dragons, resting between trips to their underwater kingdom. This unique lifestyle created a unique opportunity for another group of Galapagos residents: the snakes. The islands are home to a species called the Galapagos racer snake. These snakes are not venomous, but they are fast, numerous, and hungry. For most of the year, they hunt for small lizards and fish. But they know that for a few precious weeks each year, a feast will be served. This is when the marine iguana eggs, buried in the warm sand by their mothers, begin to hatch. The snakes are waiting. The isolation of the islands has locked these two animals into a life-or-death struggle, turning this remote paradise into a dramatic arena for survival. For a baby marine iguana, life begins with the most dangerous journey imaginable. After months of incubation buried in the warm sand, the hatchling breaks free from its leathery egg. It is a tiny, perfect miniature of its parents, just a few inches long. Buried under the sand, it was safe. But now, it must emerge into the light. Its instincts scream at it to do one thing: get to the high ground. It needs to climb up onto the rocky cliffs where the adult iguanas live. There, among the larger iguanas, it will find safety in numbers. The problem is the distance between the sandy nest and the safety of the cliffs. This short stretch of beach is a minefield. This area is what we call the gauntlet. It is the hunting ground of the Galapagos racer snakes. The snakes have been waiting for this moment. They can sense the vibrations of the tiny iguanas digging their way to the surface. They lie hidden in cracks in the rocks, under ledges, and coiled in the dust, perfectly still. They are like living tripwires, waiting for the first sign of movement. As soon as a hatchling breaks the surface of the sand, the hunt is on. The tiny iguana takes its first breath of air, and its first sight of the world is a landscape of terror. The race for its life has already begun. The odds are stacked against the hatchling. It is alone, small, and has never taken a step before. The snakes, on the other hand, are adults. They know the terrain, and there are dozens of them. As the baby iguana makes a desperate dash across the sand, snakes seem to pour out of the landscape from every direction. It's a terrifying sight. A single snake might launch an attack, and then another, and another. They are not just individual hunters. Their combined presence creates a web of death. The hatchling must rely on pure instinct, sprinting, dodging, and weaving to avoid the lunging predators. This is nature at its most raw and unforgiving. There is no room for error. A moment's hesitation, a wrong turn, or a stumble can be fatal. Many hatchlings don't make it. They are caught within seconds of being born, their journey ending before it truly began. This might seem cruel, but it is a vital part of the island's ecosystem. The snakes need to eat to survive, and the hatchlings are their main source of food during this time. Only the fastest, the most alert, and perhaps the luckiest baby iguanas will survive this terrifying welcome to the world and live to see another day. The incredible chase between baby iguanas and snakes on the Galapagos is not a one-sided affair. It's actually a perfect example of what scientists call a co-evolutionary arms race. This is where two species that interact, like a predator and its prey, evolve in response to each other. Each time one side develops a new advantage, the other side must adapt to counter it. It's really a never-ending cycle of improvement, driven by the simple need to survive. For the iguanas and the snakes, this race has been going on for generations, making both animals better at what they do. On the iguana's side, The pressure from the snakes has selected for the best escape artists. The hatchlings that survive are not just lucky, they're often the ones that are naturally a little bit faster, or have slightly quicker reaction times. Maybe they're better at suddenly changing direction, or more instinctively know the safest path to the cliffs. When these survivors grow up, they pass these advantageous traits onto their own babies. Over many generations, this means the whole iguana population becomes, on average, quicker, more alert, and better at escaping. The snakes are acting as a powerful force of natural selection. Of course, the snakes are not standing still. If all the iguanas became too fast to catch, the snakes would starve. So they've been evolving too. The snakes that are most successful are the ones that are a little bit faster or have better hunting strategies. On some islands, scientists have observed that the snakes have started to hunt in groups. This isn't a conscious, planned-out pack hunt like you might see with wolves. It's more that the presence of one hunting snake attracts others, and they all end up chasing the same prey. This accidental teamwork dramatically increases their chances of catching a hatchling, as they can cut off its escape routes. This back and forth is a delicate balance. If the snakes become too good at hunting, they could wipe out all the iguana hatchlings, and then the snakes themselves would have no food in the future. If the iguanas become too good at escaping, the snake population would crash. So, nature maintains a balance. The constant pressure keeps both species at the peak of their abilities. The iguanas get faster, so the snakes must get cleverer. The snakes get cleverer, so the iguanas must get even more alert. It's a high-stakes game of evolution, where the prize is survival itself. Sometimes, a moment from the natural world is so incredible, so dramatic, that it captures the attention of the entire planet. A few years ago, a television crew filming on the Galápagos Islands captured one such moment. It was the story of a single baby marine iguana and its impossible escape from a nest of snakes. The footage became world famous, and for good reason. It showed in heart-stopping detail the life or death struggle we've been talking about. It was honestly more thrilling than any Hollywood action movie because it was real. This one little iguana became a global symbol of courage and the will to survive. The scene began as many do. The tiny hatchling emerged from the sand and froze, sensing danger. All around it, in the cracks of the rocks, the race of snakes were waiting. Slowly, one snake began to approach. The iguana remained perfectly still, trying to use its natural camouflage to avoid being seen. But it was too late. The snake lunged. The iguana exploded into action, sprinting desperately across the open ground. And then, the true horror of its situation was revealed. Dozens of snakes poured out from the rocks, a writhing, terrifying mass of predators, all focused on one tiny target. What followed was a masterclass in escape. The little iguana dodged and weaved, running for its life. At one point, a snake managed to coil around it. It seemed like the end. The snakes were tightening their grip and the baby iguana was trapped. You could feel the tension as you watched, certain that this was it. But then, with an incredible burst of effort, the hatchling squeezed its way out of the tangled mess of snakes. It didn't stop to think. It just ran. It scrambled up a rock face, with snakes leaping through the air behind it, jaws snapping just inches from its tail. Finally, against all odds, the baby iguana reached the higher rocks. It scrambled up a small cliff face to join another, older iguana. It had made it. It had run the gauntlet and survived. It paused at the top, breathing heavily. A tiny hero who had faced down an army and won. This single dramatic event showed the world the reality of this ancient battle. It wasn't just a story in a textbook. It was a real, life and death drama that plays out every year on those remote islands. The little iguana that could become a legend. A powerful reminder of the incredible strength and resilience of nature. The epic chases between snakes and iguanas are more than just amazing television. For scientists, they are a living laboratory. By studying these interactions, we can learn a huge amount about evolution, animal behavior, and the health of an ecosystem. This predator-prey relationship is one of the clearest and most dramatic examples of natural selection in action. We can literally watch it happen. Scientists can measure the speed of the iguanas, the hunting success rate of the snakes, and track which animals survive. This gives them real hard data about how these species are changing over time. One of the key things scientists study is how the behavior of predators and prey can differ from one island to another. On islands where there are lots of snakes, the baby iguanas are incredibly wary. They are born on high alert, ready to run for their lives. On islands with fewer snakes, the hatchlings are noticeably calmer. This shows how quickly a population can adapt its behavior to the local level of threat. It tells us that these instincts aren't just fixed, they are flexible and can change in response to the environment. This is a vital lesson for understanding how animals might cope with new challenges, like climate change or invasive species. Studying this relationship also helps us understand the importance of predators. It's easy to root for the baby iguana and see the snakes as the villains. But the snakes play a crucial role in keeping the ecosystem healthy. They ensure that only the strongest and fittest iguanas survive to reproduce. This process, which seems harsh, actually makes the iguana population stronger as a whole. Without predators like the snakes, the iguana population could grow too large, eat all the algae, and then face starvation. The snakes are not evil. They are a necessary part of the balance of nature. Furthermore, by observing these animals, scientists can monitor the overall health of the Galápagos environment. If the number of snakes suddenly dropped, it might indicate a problem with their food source or a new disease. If the iguana hatchlings' survival rate changed dramatically, it could be a sign of changes in ocean temperatures affecting their food supply. These animals are like barometers for the health of their island home. The dramatic chase is a symptom of a healthy, functioning ecosystem where both predator and prey are thriving and pushing each other to be their very best. The story of the iguana and the snake is as old as the rocks and sand they live on. It's a tale that began millions of years ago, long before our own species even existed. It started with ancient reptiles, each finding their own way to survive. The iguana's ancestors learned to hide, to run, and to be ever watchful. The snake's ancestors learned to be silent, stealthy, and deadly. Their paths crossed, and an epic rivalry was born. This is not a story of good versus evil, but a powerful drama about two different strategies for life, locked in a dance that has lasted for ages. This ancient struggle is not a relic of the past, it is happening right now. As you read this, on a remote island in the Pacific, a baby iguana may be taking its first breath, and a racer snake may be lying in wait. This endless dance of predator and prey continues, just as it has for countless generations. It is the engine of evolution, the force that shapes life on our planet. Every animal, from the smallest insect to the largest whale, is part of a similar story. Every living thing is the result of an unbroken chain of ancestors who were successful enough to survive and reproduce. The famous escape of the baby iguana reminds us of the incredible will to live that exists in all creatures. It shows us that, even when the odds seem impossible, survival is a powerful instinct. We cheer for the little iguana because we see a reflection of the challenges we all face in our own lives, the need to be brave and resilient in the face of adversity. It connects us to the wildness of nature and reminds us that we are part of this grand, complicated, and beautiful web of life. These stories are important because they inspire us to care about the natural world and the amazing animals that live in it. So, the next time you see an iguana basking in the sun or a snake slithering through the grass, remember the ancient story they carry with them. They are the latest chapter in a tale of survival that stretches back to the dawn of time. The iguana represents the triumph of defense, awareness, and escape. The snake represents the perfection of the hunt, of stealth and power. Together, they perform an endless dance, a dramatic and vital part of life on Earth. It's a reminder that in nature, the struggle for survival is constant. And it's this struggle that creates the incredible diversity and beauty of the world around